Hello and welcome back to my channel, Deku Fanfic. Join us as we delve into the realms of fanfiction and fantasy, bringing you the best stories and discussions. Today, we're kicking off the final part of our series, What If Deku Was Songwriter? If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content in the future. The author of this story is BlueLove22 from fanfiction.net. All the relevant links are in the description. Feel free to say hello to the author on their profile. Now, let's dive into the fanfic. You've got this, bro. Don't sweat it, Midori. You're going to kill it out there. We believe in you, Deku-kun. You'll do great, Ribbit. I'd say break a leg out there, Midoriya, but part of me worries you might actually do it. Instead, I'll just wish you good luck. Relax, dude. You're going to be amazing. If you make me suffer from secondhand embarrassment out there by falling on your ass or something, Deku, I'm going to turn this performance into a fireworks show. After such kind words from Kirishima, Mina, Uraraka, Tsuyu, Todoroki, and Jiraiya, Bakugo's statement made Izuku giggle at the change of tone. It had a similar effect on the others as well, save Tsuyu and Todoroki, who merely regarded Bakugo's words with silence. Thanks everyone, Izuku responded. He took a deep breath, his eyes closing for a long moment, before raising his fist into the air in front of him confidently. Now let's get out there and do this. Yeah, many of his classmates echoed back with equal if not more enthusiasm. It was about as loud as the cheer they'd done after being informed that the roof to the gymnasium was in fact retractable. Aizawa told his class he was fine with it if they wanted to utilize the function, and with the enjoyable sunny weather outside it had been a unanimous vote to open up the roof for the noon performance. They had been considering leaving it open for the evening show as well, but after the staging team talked they agreed it would have to be closed for the effects to work. That talk aside, when noon hit it was showtime. The dance team entered stage left, getting into position as the band team went to their respective instruments, the staging team readying themselves for their involvement. Izuku stayed close to Jiraiya while they walked out until he knew it was time for him to stop. A hand fidgeting with his ear mic self-consciously, he turned to face the crowd with determined eyes from the middle of the stage. Thank you all for coming. Jiraiya greeted once more from her own microphone. This is our second show of 3, the finale taking place later at approximately 4 o'clock. Be sure to attend, we're saving the best for last. With that she gave the signal for the countdown. 4 seconds later, the stage exploded with movement and sound. First, Izuku and Kaminari came in at the same time the instruments did. Whoa, they repeated together, their voices harmonizing well as Izuku began slowly walking towards the front of the stage throughout the intro. At the same time, the dancers spread out around the stage. From their respective spots they performed shuffles in time with the beat. In addition to that, they also worked in varying arm movements. Those consisted of throwing their arms out to either side or in a diagonal direction with their palms flat and fingers together. Every so often they added in a quick spin, which was made more impressive by the fact the front line would do it first with the second line of students following just after. When the short instrumental came to an end though, the dancers began moving around the stage in complex paths. The entire time they trotted around energetically, occasionally jumping, skipping, or spinning, yet clapping to the beat all the while. It was at the transition Izuku began his solo, and the Greenette would show off his lesser-known talents to the world. Well, it's strange my head is remembering. He started by bringing a hand up to his temple, how the airplane flying overhead. He raised said hand higher into the air while turning it palm up at the same time. Looks so effortless, but I cannot guess. His hand began to fall, why it lingers in my mind. He resumed walking as he sang the next sentence, going along the right edge of the stage in order to stay out of the way of his moving classmates. Evening after this I'm a crying mess and to be stronger now my only wish, he sang before raising his head to look up towards the open sky, his arm following a moment later, so I can finally have the bravery, so I can reach on up to the sky. This cruel fate, engraving, he continued. A hand curled into a fist and was placed over his heart while the other gesticulated in front of him. It's carved into the stone, hoping it reveals itself all to me and then I will know just where to go. This moment, he repeated as if breathless, this moment, I know that I can breathe, hanging on a feeling, believe in, my only meaning. He held the last note before spinning around, Kaminari joining him for the accenting lyrics and sounds while Izuku took on the chorus by himself. As he sang he practically ran across the stage. On the way to the other side he purposefully weaved between his friends during their routine like practiced, their hands meeting at every encounter for a high five as well as occasionally twirling each other around. I hear a voice a-calling, telling me to risk it. He high-fived Tsuyu and Shoji, asking if I have been going the distance. Uraraka and Minta were next, singing with a passion that I cannot deny. Mina pulled him into an easy spin before sending him on his way. My eyes are swollen with the tears that I've been crying. A hand met Ida's and Ajiro's. But to the rest of the world, ever smiling, Sato and Hagakure were last, singing for the courage that I'm dying to show. Just as he came to a stop at the left side of the stage he turned to face the audience, a hand rising into the air to show off the peace sign he was making. With my peace sign up when I say goodbye, write a story of a hero. 10 seconds of instrumental played, allowing Izuku to catch his breath and for the dance team to get into place for their next movement. When the Greenette began the next verse the dancers were in a single line across the middle of the stage. Everyone was roughly arm's length apart as they shuffled from left to right, waiting for their cues from Izuku. Their next routine was basically a game of Izuku says as he walked from one end of the stage to the other once again. I didn't want to say I protected you. His eyes slipped closed as his body carried out the next few movements from memory. And you were never weak, I'm number 2. His classmates held up 2 fingers the same time he did. You were stronger than I have ever been, they mirrored his hands sweep next. And you mean more to me than you know. Everyone had their hands over their hearts. I have changed myself since the day I yelled, their hands swept out to their sides, about how you go on by yourself, so if you have to laugh. His hands found their way around his upper arms, and the dancers did the same barely a second later. I should tell you that I'm afraid that I'm all alone. I'm kicking, I'm biting, impossible to breathe. His hands strayed near his throat before finding either side of his head. He executed a quick circle with his head before bringing his splayed-out hands to his stomach. Going down below the depths of my troubled head, and I can feel my stomach heave. I see it. His head snapped up. I need it. It calms the blood that beats. If only I could touch it. A single arm stretched upwards as he neared the end of the stage again, acting as if he'd grasped whatever it was he was reaching for at the singing of the last word, enough that it's mine for keeping. This time he didn't run across the stage. Instead he joined the dance team, all of them performing a well-executed sequence of moves that involved leaping forwards, a spin, grasping hands with a neighbor to pull one another to the side, and so on. I hear a voice a-calling, telling me to risk it, asking if I have been going the distance, singing with a passion that I cannot deny. Whoa, Kaminari sang passionately. My eyes are swollen with the tears that I've been crying, but to the rest of the world, ever smiling, singing for the courage that I'm dying to show. Whoa, Izuku broke off from the group once more and showed off a peace sign for the second time. With my peace sign up when I say goodbye, write a story of a hero. Those watching roared in approval as Gyro absolutely shredded her guitar while the dance team snapped their fingers. It lasted several seconds until Izuku came in for his duet with Kaminari. The brunette closed his eyes as he sang, Kaminari doing the same from where he and Takoyami played a few accenting chords. At the same time though, the staging team executed their part too. From the center of the stage, atop the rafters, Kirishima began madly breaking away at a long mound of ice Todoroki had crafted earlier. Thanks to the fan Kota was holding in place, small bits of confetti like ice rained down upon the crowd as the singers and dancers went about their routine. Those days getting rowdy, getting bloody, I was all scraped, getting worn and getting dirty. Now I hear you talking and it all is coming back. I see it in my mind. He put a finger to his temple. My memories revived. I could apologize for sleeping in a chrysalis, and with every passing night I wish that I was leaving it, and I swear that I'll be back again. He belted the last word, his eyes snapping open to look out into the crowd. It didn't take long for him to notice those in the front row. His mother was looking up at him in awe, her wide eyes glistening with tears where she sat in between Mitsuki and Eri. She exuded a sense of pride in him that nearly made him falter. She'd never been very good at hiding her emotions, yet the obvious overwhelming pools of love and happiness she felt at the sight of his confident performance was almost too much for Izuku. Whoa, then there was Eri, who looked just as floored as she had during the last performance. 2 seats down, Kota seemed to be pretending as if he weren't all that impressed. However, the subtle way he moved his foot and bobbed his head made Izuku beg to differ. Even Aizawa and All Might seemed to smile at the performance. Izuku stuck the thought of likening their proud expressions to that of a doting father on his children away for later thought. He could analyze what he'd witnessed later and deal with his overactive feelings that would no doubt respond dramatically later too. Right now he needed to prepare himself for the finale. Aoyama, and he only practiced this once, so he prayed it would go well once again. Just as Izuku was about to repeat the chorus one more time, several streamers of Shiro's tape were let down from the catwalk above the stage. Before most of the steamers could touch the bottom of the stage though, Uraraka high-fived half of the other dancers to make them weightless. This meant Mina, Uraraka, Tsuyu, and Hagakure swung from streamer to streamer while the males gripped said streamers from the bottom. The males made short work of grabbing the several dozen pieces of tape from either end of the room and meeting in the middle with them, the tape forming a giant V from the point of view of the audience. It looked uncannily similar to a peace sign. I hear a voice a-calling, telling me to risk it, asking if I have been going the distance, singing with a passion that I cannot deny. Izuku brought a hand to his mic to steady it as he sang his heart out, his eyes slipping closed with emotion. Behind him in the rafters, Aoyama concentrated his laser to fire the thinnest, weakest beam of light he could manage. When it hit the chuck of Todoroki's ice, they had carefully figured out the dimensions, for prior the effect was instantaneous. My eyes are swollen with the tears that I've been crying. He tilted his head back as beams of light rocketed high above him, showing off spectacularly in the sky like a firework, but to the rest of the world, ever smiling, singing for the courage that I'm dying to show. He took a quick breath before holding an arm up in the air yet again. With my peace sign up when I say goodbye, write a story of a hero. He formed a peace sign just as 2 girls hanging from either side of the V made from streamers swung to hang off of the sides. Their free arms were raised into peace signs as well. With my peace sign up when I say goodbye, he repeated with less music drowning out his voice, making it stand out more even in the open roof gymnasium, write a story of a hero. Bakugo and Gyro's instruments played for a few seconds longer, the conclusion of the song ending with a passionate flurry of notes. There was only a second of silence after that before the crowd erupted with applause. To Izuku's surprise, the front row even stood up to clap. At seeing his homeroom teacher, mentor, mother, and so many others he cared deeply about clapping for his classmates and him, he felt his lower lip wobble. He really didn't want to start crying in front of such a large crowd though. He'd done that at the sports festival, and he still wasn't over that embarrassment. Still, if one tear of emotion got through, who was there to blame him? After that, those in class 1 had some free time to check out the rest of the festival. To say they had fun during that time would have been an understatement. From how well the last 2 performances had gone, and how excited they were for the finale, they had the time of their lives. They're going to check out the Ghost Labyrinth being put on by Zombie Eye's class, Bakugo told Izuku as he gestured to the Baka squad. Want to join them? The Greenette looked over to where Kauta and Eri were chatting about something while his mother, Mirio, and Mandalay watched over them. Bakugo's parents were in line at a vendor nearby getting food. Once the 2 adults were back, the group planned on heading over to where the beauty contest would be taking place. Not only were Mirio and Eri rooting for Nejire to win, but Mitsuki was interested in seeing the dress designs. Everyone else was along for the ride, and Ko met his gaze after a moment of him staring, a soft smile on her face as she gave him a small wave before doing a subtle shooing motion. Go have fun, sweetie, her face said. You deserve it. He didn't need to be told a 3rd time. Sure thing, Kaken, Izuku finally answered. Nina, Shiro, Kirishima, and Kaminari had already begun walking away from them. You'll hold my hand if Shinsu pulls a jump scare, right? The blonde scoffed. You'll end up judo flipping me or some shit if he tries that. Your reaction time and right hook aren't for wimps like him either, so if you miss me you'd probably knock him out cold. I haven't reacted like that in a really long time. You may be strong, Deku, but that doesn't change the fact that you scream like a girl when you're faced with a jump scare. Kaken, that's mean. I am mean. What's your point? My scream is nothing like your Raka or Mina's. Mine is much shriller. The 2 boys looked at each other for a short moment before they both burst out laughing. Bakugo swung an arm over the other's shoulders as they made their way through the dense crowd of students and visitors, their friends only a few yards ahead of them. Roughly 10 minutes later, the 6 of them were walking close together as they made their way through Class C's well-made attraction. It's so dark in here, Shiro complained as they pushed past some fake cobwebs and black streamers blocking their path. Well, it is basically a haunted house, Kirishima replied, just after he said that a square of the ceiling disappeared only for Shinsu in a literal zombie costume, ragged clothes and fake blood gracing his face among everywhere else, to drop halfway out of the ceiling. He let out a loud yet somehow monotone yell that had Kaminari jumping into Mina's arms as everyone save Bakugo screamed in fright. After a few seconds of screaming, Shinsu and Bakugo couldn't hold back from chuckling as everyone else's reactions. Even as Izuku clutched Bakugo's hand hard enough to cut off blood from circulating to it, the sound of his chuckling gradually drew another bright smile from him. I've missed this feeling, Izuku thought as they continued to venture deeper within the attraction. Bakugo had yet to release his hand. Once they escaped the Ghost Labyrinth, Izuku and Bakugo ran into Ida, Todoroki, Uraraka, Tsuyu, and Todoroki's mother. The boys were standing behind cardboard cutouts of different heroes who taught at the school, as well as the principal himself and even the building. At the sight of Todoroki staring blankly at them from behind the Nedzu cutout and Ida smiling brilliantly behind the cutout of their school, Izuku found himself laughing while Todoroki's mother snapped pictures of them with a soft smile. When the photo shoot was over, Uraraka noticed them. She turned around, a hand raised in greeting. Deku-kun, Bakugo-kun. Izuku felt his boyfriend's grip loosen slightly at the friendly honorific. It seemed the blonde was surprised. Hey guys, Izuku smiled. Midoriya, they have a cutout of All Might over there. Tsuyu pointed towards it. There's a line, but I'm assuming you'd like a picture behind it, Ribbit. Todoroki's having his mom use his phone's camera because it takes the best pictures. The Greenette's eyes shined with excitement. Of course I'd like a picture. He turned to Bakugo then, the taller boy bracing himself for the question he knew he was going to be asked. Want to take one too, Kaken? Not really. Sooner or later they're going to be making a cardboard cutout of me, and by that point I won't need a picture behind a cutout of the #1 hero because I'll be #1. What a party pooper, Uraraka grumbled. Izuku wasn't fazed though. That's fine. I'm still going to get a picture with it, but now I can't wait until they make cardboard cutouts of us. Can you imagine being Todoroki-kun? I'll have to stop myself from smiling in that one if the time comes, because he always looks so serious in hero mode. The boy in question frowned. Being a hero is serious business, Midoriya. I know, but you have a nice smile. It wouldn't hurt for you to show it those you're protecting from time to time. I agree, Shoto. His mother chimed in, one of her hands resting on his shoulder lightly. At her words her son crossed his arms. There was no missing the dusting of pink on his cheeks. It was honestly the first time he'd ever seen the usual stoic boy a bit embarrassed. Uraraka, Ida, and Tsuyu broke in then, chattering about the funny expressions their friends had made in the past. Bakugo tried to keep up for a little while before he suddenly got tired of the conversation. In an instant he was pulling his boyfriend towards the All Might cutout and telling them to just take the damn picture. Hurry the hell up, Deku. There are other things to do and see within the next hour. Okay, Kaken. After waiting in a line for roughly 5 minutes, Izuku stood behind the All Might cutout for a picture. Todoroki was coaxed into showing off a soft smile for the picture, to which his mother was very happy about. Hey, Bakugo. Kaminari happened upon them a little while later as they walked while munching on some stand food. There's an obstacle course over there that Kirishima and Shiro were trying to do, but no quirks are allowed and it's crazy tough. Monoma from Class B tried like 3 times before Tetsu had to drag him off. Bakugo looked at Izuku with a spark in his eyes that the greenette knew all too well. We can go to the obstacle course, Kakin, just don't rub it in Monoma's face when you win. I won't need to gloat for that copycat bastard to know I can kick his ass in anything. 15 minutes later, the Baka squad were hefting Bakugo into the air in celebration of his victory. According to the person running the course, he'd set a new record. Good job, Pikabro, Kirishima said with his usual bravado. I knew all we needed to tell you for you to try the course was to mention that someone from Class B tried and failed. Your drive to win is scary, but it makes it easy to talk you into things. Mina gossiped to Izuku while he watched his boyfriend, Shiro, and Kirishima chase each other through the crowd about something trivial. Kaminari had split up from them several minutes prior, having seen Jiro, Yaoyorozu, and Hagakure leaving a nearby booth. Look at the time, he realized suddenly. His watch showed it was 5 minutes until they needed to be at the gymnasium to prepare for the final show. Jiro's going to be mad if we're not there when we plan to be. We're going to need to hurry if we want to make it back in time. Mina grinned, running forward to yell Racia, loud enough for the rest of the boys to hear. She didn't stop even as her friends shouted in protest that she had an unfair head start. Bakugo and Izuku didn't complain though. Instead, they took off running through the crowd like children, jokingly shoving each other as they dodged people enjoying the festival. 5 minutes later, all of them arrived at the gymnasium on time. Good luck out there, All Might told him just as 4 o'clock was near. The man looked more proud of his protege than ever. You'll do great out there no matter what, my boy. Your mother, Aizawa, little Iri and Kauta, and myself included are all so proud of the hero you've become. Even when you're not fighting villains, you're still saving people with a smile by putting their minds at ease and raising their hearts. You're going to be an amazing symbol of peace. Izuku had to wipe away the tears he felt gather in his eyes. Thanks, All Might. 1 head pat later, Izuku found Bakugo just as the 60-second countdown began. As the roof of the gymnasium was being closed, the greenette hugged his boyfriend from behind. Everyone is wishing me good luck, but I wanted to wish you some luck as well, Kakin. The blonde scoffed, yet it was fond. Thanks, Deku. We're going to blow everyone away out there. Izuku nodded. He believed him wholeheartedly. After all, with Bakugo by his side they could do anything. The performance began a minute later. The entire gymnasium was dark at the beginning, the stage lights all off save for one spotlight that allowed the crowd to see the band team assembled. As the instruments were being readied to play, Jiro spoke to the audience one last time. Thank you all for coming to our final performance. We'd also like to thank you all for attending the festival. We hope you enjoyed your day and made a lot of good memories here, she said into the mic with a smile. This is Class 1A's send-off to you. A 4-second countdown came then, and the moment the music started a lone figure glowed green in the darkness. His voice entered the same moment the music did. I'll cut through the mirage then. Izuku threw his arm out in front of him as he activated more of One for All, the light from his quirk lighting up the area around him. There's bright blue sky behind it. I'll spend forever flying. I'll be singing to the sky, Kaminari sang passionately as he strummed his guitar. I will make my mistakes, Izuku continued as he readied himself for the lights to come back on. It's fate. The right half of the stage lit up to reveal half of the dancers kneeling down. It's fate. The left half of the stage followed similarly. Achieve the future with our might. On the last word, the middle of the stage was also bathed in light. It was at that moment Izuku stopped his quirk, instead bringing his arm up and raising his fist to the sky. Hearts alight, still we fight. The guitar and drum part that took off there had the audience shouting out in approval. At the same time, the dancers stood up, getting into position on either side of Izuku in a V formation not unlike that used in the morning performance. The only difference was that Izuku was at the peak this time. Even the staging team was hard at work, Kota, Shiro, Kirishima, and Todoroki moving some of the spotlights around by hand while some of Kota's birds carried some out above the audience. Seeking out, the chorus began with the tune coming from Yaoyorozu's keyboard rising up over the other instruments. As he sang, Izuku moved as one with the other dancers. All the lies I've ever feared in oceans of tears. I say goodbye, Kaminari took over, cause time has passed. I leave today. No matter what I lose, I'm on my way. The dancers moved from a kneeling lunge they had shuffled to back into a standing position once more. When Izuku came back and they all turned to the side as one, their arms raised in an X and bringing them out as he sang the first 2 words. Frustration, humiliation. I need them. He raised his voice as they threw their hands into the air to reach my destination. Spotlights were repositioned so that only the middle section of the stage was the target, a wide circle of light that engulfed only the dancers and the band. I'll cut through the mirage then, there's bright blue sky behind it. I'll spend forever flying. I'll be singing to the sky. I will make my mistakes. It's fate. Half of the dancers pretended to fall to the floor. It's fate. The other half, with the exception of Izuku, went next. Achieve the future with our might. Hearts alight, still we fight. During the instrumental, the dancers jumped back up, getting into place beside Izuku once more. Those in the crowd watched with bated breath as the view of the boy who'd been so shy in the previous festival transformed. Despite the brutal, powerful quirk he possessed and had used to break himself for the world to see, seeing him on stage singing with a sense of life that invigorated everyone in the audience was something else. As he danced gracefully among his fellow classmates, his soft-spoken but passionate voice demanding they listen, hearts were being lifted. People often said that music is what feelings, thoughts, or emotions sound like. Had anyone ever said that music might be what being saved sounds like? Impossible. They moved as one left and right, to never make a sacrifice. Move forward and take flight. A literal leap forwards brought another cheer up from the crowd. And though I've lost, I know this ideal will be my guide through the darkest dark. The light suddenly dimmed only to grow rapidly bright again, and brightest light. All of the dancers suddenly stopped at the next line, their upper bodies being the only thing moving as they performed a few head and arm movements. Don't you laugh at me, Izuku breathed, shaking his head. Laugh along with me. I need you to reach my destination. His head snapped up to face directly in front of him. As he launched into the next verse, he stepped closer to the edge of the stage and away from the dancers as they continued their routine. "'Cause I've been meaning to tell you, those things I should have told you, the day that I first met you." He closed his eyes and sang his heart out, a clenched fist clutching his chest as he let his emotions come through in his voice. This song meant so many things to him. I'll be singing to the sky. I will make my mistakes. It's fate. As he swept an arm out, the dancers to that side dropped to the ground as if felled once again. It's fate. The same thing happened to the remaining dancers. No sacrifice will be too great. He dropped to one knee. Now, before it's too late, he finished by falling onto his back just as the lights died down again. All of the dancers lied there looking out of the corner of their eyes towards the band team. The spotlights were on them as Bakugo's excellent drum part set up Gyro's solo, the other guitarists and keyboard backing her up just like they'd practiced. Those in the front row leaned forward with interest as Bakugo suddenly straightened up from his slouched position at the drums so he could place his face closer to the microphone that had been set up next to him. Then, to his parents' surprise, he opened his mouth and sang. This suffering. His voice was low yet tinged with emotion. It's like a storm over our heads. But I will still rise to my feet through the mud of ridicule and doubt. I'm trapped in this storm, and every time my dreams and my ideals are within my grasp. He closed his eyes for a moment even as he played. In the darkness, Izuku got back up onto his feet. The brunette walked forwards until he was standing at the edge of the center stage, his loved ones only a yard away. The more I grip, the more they slip through my fingers, leaving me with nothing but this warmth, telling me that we deserve to live this life, and push beyond this stream of disappointment to where the light shines. Izuku activated his quirk just before the last few words, making some of those in the crowd cry out in shock as he lit up the area around him, singing louder than he had previously. And now the storm is ending. And then Bakugo and Izuku were singing together, the lights coming back on to reveal the still unmoving dancers scattered across the stage. I'll cut through the mirage then, there's bright blue sky behind it. Izuku raised his arms in the air before sweeping them out dramatically. I'll spend forever flying. I'll be singing to the sky, Kaminari repeated. I should have listened to my heart, it was dying to tell you. The two boys belted intensely, Izuku's hand going to his heart while the other gestured in front of him with emotion. The things I should have told you on the day that I first met you. I'll be singing to the sky. I will make my mistakes. The dancers prepared themselves to get up, half of them standing once more at the first It's Fate and the other half joining them in the second It's Fate. They all began to walk to the front to stand on either side of Izuku. Achieve the future with our might. Hearts alight, still we fight. The end, the end. Gyro and Kaminari both came in to join the other two, their voices forming an echoing effect. Fight for the future until then. The dancers all raised a fist into the air, smiling brightly while the four singers harmonized as one. Here are hearts, we ascend. Instrumental filled the gymnasium as the dancers locked hands and bowed, all of them looking down as the final few chords were played. The lights shut off in time with the very last chord, leaving the audience screaming in the darkness until a second later when Kota turned on all of the lights. Clapping went on for a while. Izuku breathed heavily even as he grinned at where Bakugo's parents were nearing, jumping up and down with joy, his own mother crying freely while a sheepish All Might comforted her. Kota just stood there clapping and all while Eri had her arms in the air clapping widely while Mirio held her in place on his shoulders. Thank you once again, Gyro's voice cut through the applause to be heard over it, and good night. The students of Class 1 made to get off stage when the word encore made itself heard over all of the other voice. At its appearance, more people suddenly began shouting for them to do one more song. Gyro felt the stares of her classmates just as Izuku felt Gyro's own eyes on him. Did they want to do one more? Izuku ran over to where Gyro was motioning for him to speak with her, an idea already forming in his mind. Do you feel up to doing one more song? She asked him. Both of us can sing something if you want, but I'm not sure which one to pick. That one was a really good closer, so what about period? We recorded the instrumental that was played in between performances, but no one outside our class has actually heard the words. We could get the rest of the class on stage to just enjoy themselves while me, you, and whoever else wants to join and sings along. Gyro smiled broadly. Sounds like a plan, Midoriya. I'll go inform the band and dance teams if you want to run up and get the staging team down here. Right. As Aizawa watched his students gather on stage, the band team setting up a few microphones along the middle of the stage while several students stood by each one. He wasn't the only one in the crowd getting excited about hearing one more song by such a talented class. Finally, a couple minutes after Gyro had originally bid the audience goodnight, Izuku took a deep breath before speaking into his ear mic to address said audience. Hello everyone. We heard your request, and we decided we would all sing you one last song. You might have heard the instrumental earlier if you stuck around in between performances, but now you're going to hear the words that go along with it. We hope you enjoy it. Plus Ultra. The returning cry nearly shook the gymnasium. Plus Ultra. A moment later Mina pressed a button on the computer now hooked up to the speakers, running back over to where the other girls save Gyro stood around a microphone. There was a 10-second delay before the music began. Several students shifted awkwardly, unsure of what to do at first. Then he simply tapped a foot to the beat as they stood around the microphones. Their eyes were on Izuku and Gyro, who stood at the front of the stage a few feet apart from one another bobbing their heads. Izuku might have been the one to write the song, but after hearing it for the first time barely a week ago it was already one of Gyro's favorites. At last we're here at the halfway point, Izuku began by himself, in the heart of our endless journey. At last, while everything still is calm. Take a deep breath, Gyro held as her eyes slipped shut. We both have just began to grasp it, but it slipped out of our hands. Ah, Gyro interjected expertly. Izuku continued along with some of his classmates who had decided to come in as well. And we will learn from those fragile mistakes till nothing stands in our way. An unbreakable bond will forever link our hearts. They sang loudly, Bakugo and Todoroki begrudgingly sharing a microphone to join in. There's no spell, no hell, that will undo us. Oh, the girls sang into the mic as they got lost in the music. We have made it here at last in this never-ending dance, and we'll live through this period of time. At that moment Uraraka rushed forwards, reaching her hands out to the front row. Iri-chan, Kauta-kun, grab my hands. While Kauta was far more hesitant than Iri, who practically leapt out of Mirio's arms, the two children felt themselves become weightless as they were brought onto the stage. It was with a joyous laugh that echoed through his mic that Izuku rushed forward to grab onto the now floating kids. Once their hands touched his, any small amount of panic they were feeling evaporated. They looked at him in awe, his kind green eyes filling them with hope. With their hero they were safe. It's love that rushes within my veins. Izuku spun Iri and Kauta lightly for a moment, bringing a bright smile to the girl's face while Kauta fought off a blush and a grin. It keeps me warm on my darkest days, just like this one single memory. May it not fade. Gyro joined in then, meeting Izuku's eyes in a silent signal for the upcoming duet. I will promise you that I'll do everything I can, and I will take you along. In this song, Izuku started while bringing Iri and Kauta to sit on his shoulders. Overflows, Gyro sang back. Like a wish, nearing close. Nearly every student came in for the next line. Everything in life sings along. Don't you dare look away from this one reality. Find the courage to stand up and fight. Turn your anger into strength. Izuku met eyes with Kauta meaningfully before they met with Iri's. Melting sadness in its wake till you find your fate waiting here always. Oh, Gyro and a few others added in passionately. As they did so, Izuku crouched down to hand the kids off to Mirio. Uraraka saw this and deactivated her quirk so they landed gently in the third year's arms. So look ahead and carry on. Izuku stood up as he sang, his eyes closing as he took a deep breath. When he came in with the next line it was like his voice was channeling his quirk. It's a glittering new world. People broke out in goosebumps, losing their breath for a moment as he sang his heart out. I am shaken to my core. Vulnerability snuck into his voice as his body moved on its own. His arms went to either side as he brought his clenched hands into the air to splay them to either side, by the cries that call my name. They're the ones that I will never betray, his classmates echoed into their microphones just as fervently. Once that was done they quickly made their way to the front of the stage until all 20 of them were standing side by side. Without saying anything they joined hands as Izuku and Gyro finished singing the song. We have made it here at last, may this future never end. And we'll live through this period of time. Izuku couldn't help but grin as he sang. With one hand in his boyfriend's, the other in Uraraka's, and all of his loved ones close by, there was nowhere else he'd rather be. At our fingertips, the truth will align. They bowed as one, the audience's cheers becoming deafening. In order of appearance, Jason Young's cover of Peace signed by Kenshi Yonzu. Jason Young's cover of Singing to the Sky by Amazurashi. Amelie's cover of Period by Chemistry. Songs I tried to fit in at some point but couldn't. The Reason by Hoobastank. Lost in You by 3 Days Grace. Over and Over by 3 Days Grace. Halo by Starset. Kelly Mahoney. Studio Uraki cover of Update by Miwa. Amelie's cover of Odd Future by Uverworld. The day after the cultural festival. Said it was a lazy day for most of Class 1A. After the success of last evening's performance, everyone had attended the closing ceremony in high spirits. Said spirits were lifted even higher when it was announced that several pro heroes would be giving out autographs near the exit. Those like Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, Death Arms, and several UA teachers made an appearance. President Mike and Midnight even convinced Aizawa to sign a few things before the underground hero slipped away to return to the hospital with Iri and Mirio. Such a well-received surprise signing event prolonged visitors leaving campus by a good hour, but Principal Nedzu saw it worth the extra security. Anything to show the public that heroes cared about them amidst the worries of villains amassing. That's what the entire festival had been about in the first place, raising spirits and ensuring people UA and the hero community as a whole would do whatever it takes to keep people safe. Either way, by the time the festival was over there was the issue of cleanup. Their class was responsible for cleaning the entirety of the large gymnasium they had used for their event. With the amount of trash left behind that they would need to pick up, not to mention the sweeping, mopping, and getting the equipment brought back to the dorms, they weren't even close to finishing the cleaning until it was nearly 10. By that point everyone was starving. They had agreed to make a communal meal of stir-fry, which was fairly easy and quick to make despite there being 20 of them, yet by the time they had cooked the food, eaten it, and then cleaned and put away the dishes it was well past 11. Keep in mind they had also gotten up very early in the morning after staying up rather late the night before. It was safe to say the entire class passed out seconds after making it to their beds. All of this was why Izuku expected no one to be awake at roughly 8 in the morning. For some reason though he still heard a soft but careful knocking on his door, pulling him from his slumber. "Hello?" Izuku asked tiredly as he made to open the door. When he was faced with 2 different colored eyes he found himself blinking in confusion. "Todoroki-kun." "Good morning, Midoriya." "Same to you." He rubbed the sleep from his eyes, a friendly smile slipping onto his face. "Why are you here so early though?" Though everyone would be sleeping until noon after the last few days. Getting more than 8 hours of sleep makes me sluggish for the rest of the day. I didn't inconvenience you too much by waking you up, did I? Not at all. I woke up a little while ago and just dozed off again. Don't worry about it. Would you like to come in? The dual-haired boy thought for a moment before nodding, following Izuku inside before shutting the door. They sat down on his all-might comforter a second later. "So," Izuku started once they were settled, "what's up? Can you teach me to dance?" "Well, that was unexpected." "Huh? You want me to teach you how to dance?" He pointed at himself incredulously. "Why, after watching our classmates the past week I've grown the desire to learn some basic dance. It looks like a lot of fun, and I was hoping maybe I could show my mother a few moves I learned once I become decent at it. When I was young she once told me how she loved dancing with her sister in high school. However, she has not been able to see her sister in years. Part of me wants to help her remember the feeling of having someone to dance with. It would make her so happy." Izuku shook his head. "That's very admirable, Todoroki-kun, but that wasn't really what I was asking. I meant why are you asking me when Mina is the best dancer in the class? She literally taught everyone else what they know, me included. Wouldn't it make more sense to ask her for a couple of dance lessons?" Todoroki frowned. "As much as I admire her talent, her personality as a dance instructor is a bit louder than I would like. I felt more comfortable coming to you. If you don't want to though, then it's fine. I can ask Ashido." Wait. "It's fine, really. I was just confused, but your reasoning makes sense. She is a bit on the eccentric side. I understand why you'd prefer someone else. So you'll help me?" Izuku nodded. "Of course. When would you like to start?" "May we start right now?" The brunette fought back a sweat drop. Todoroki was as straightforward as ever. "Sure thing. Let me just put my clothes on, run to the bathroom, and grab a quick breakfast. Meet me outside the dorms in 10. I will be there." "Thank you, Midoriya." He let out a nervous chuckle. "Don't thank me yet. I've never had to teach anyone before, so you might need to ask Mina for help yet." 1 hour later. It turns out he wasn't a bad dance teacher at all. 1 hour into their impromptu lesson, the sun shining partway across the sky, Todoroki had definitely learned quite a bit. He was a fast learner. Izuku was patient whenever he was having difficulty with a move, and he was more than helpful when it came to correcting his movements. Not once did either of them find themselves frustrated. With the quietness of the morning their lesson was peaceful. It was like they were doing yoga instead of dancing. That was until Bakugo threw open the front door of the dormitory with a scowl on his face. "Deku, why the hell don't you have your phone on you? I texted you like 3 times and when I checked your room you weren't there." Immediately the 2 dancing boys stopped what they were doing. Izuku felt a bit guilty, having remembered he'd promised to eat breakfast with his boyfriend that morning once they were both awake. "Sorry, Kaken. Todoroki-kun needed help with something. I must have forgotten to bring my phone with me when I got up this morning too, so that's why I never responded. We can make something for breakfast now if you want." Red eyes turned to Todoroki, who stared back impassively. "I texted him 8:15. What did your annoying ass need at 8 in the morning, huh?" "I wouldn't call my ass annoying," Todoroki responded in monotone, making Izuku choke on barely concealed laughter. "I merely requested he teach me the basics of dance." He said yes. Bakugo crossed his arms, muscles tense. "Then why didn't you ask Pinky to teach you? She's the one who taught Deku everything he knows. I feel no reason to explain myself to you." "What was that, half-in half-bastard?" "Guys," Izuku tried to interject peacefully. "There's no reason to get so worked up over this. Kaken, you and I can make something to eat right now. Todoroki-kun, we can practice some more later in the day." He was ignored. "I think I might have crossed an imaginary line I hadn't known there to be. Either way, Bakugo, there's no need to let your jealousy rile you up this early in the morning. Midoriya, feel free to text me whenever you're free again. I don't have anything to do today anyway on account of supplemental lessons being moved to tomorrow." "Sure thing." I'll talk to you later. What did you just call me? Bakugo screamed, sparks dancing from his palms. Todoroki feigned confusion. Bakugo, of course. That is your name. Not that. You called me jealous, didn't you, asshole? Is that not why you're angry with me? You had plans with your boyfriend this morning, and because I asked him to help me with something, they had to be postponed. While I feel you're angrier than others would act in the same situation, I do feel partially responsible for your delayed breakfast date. For that I apologize for keeping him from you. I meant no harm by it. Despite being mildly impressed with the apology, Bakugo couldn't shake off the rage that came with being told he was behaving like a green-eyed monster. He wasn't jealous. He was just annoyed, although he had to admit he'd been a little concerned about Izuku when he didn't respond. His boyfriend always texted him back. His text alert was all might yelling smash at the top of his lungs. There was no sleeping through that. The fact that breakfast had to wait was whatever to Bakugo. He was more agitated by the fact Todoroki couldn't just ask Mina for help. Dancing was her thing after all, wasn't it? So why was he bothering Izuku? That ice-a-hot bastard needs to back off, he thought to himself. That nerd is mine now. The only problem was that nerd was friends WTH Todoroki. Good friends at that. They had become closer since the sports festival, Hasu, and so on. He was up there with Uraraka and Ada, two people he knew he could trust to keep his boyfriend in line as well as happy. He knew Uraraka had fallen for Izuku in the past, but she was too good of a person to pull anything. Ada was more like an older brother to Izuku anyway. Todoroki, on the other hand, Bakugo couldn't help but see him as a threat. He was good-looking, strong, smart, and if not a bit uncultured but in the attractive, lived under a rock way. His tragic home life further showed his endurance and strength both mentally and physically. Someone like that was someone he could see Izuku fawning over. After all, Izuku looked at Todoroki with a look similar to how he regarded Bakugo when they were kids. I don't want your shitty apology, the blonde finally responded. With that he spun on his heel so he was facing the dorms. Deku, come help me make breakfast. After that you, me, and that red and white pain in my ass will meet back out here for dance lessons. If he's learning how to dance, he jammed a thumb towards Todoroki, then I have to show him how much better at it I'll be even with an hour less of training. Izuku shook his head to the side as he went to meet his boyfriend at the entryway. What had he gotten himself into now? One breakfast later. If you're serious about joining us, then you're going to need to stop glaring daggers at Todoroki-kun. It's distracting. Why? It's not like I'm staring at you. Because it's rude, Kaken. It's really not a big deal, Todoroki chimed in as they moved on to another dance move. I'm used to his unpleasant face. It doesn't faze me much anymore. What the hell did you just say about my face, you scarred freak? Izuku sighed for the upteenth time that morning. He was getting sick of this. That's it, you two. One more squabble and he couldn't say done. Todoroki wanted to learn this for his mother's sake. Izuku wasn't that heartless. And there was Bakugo, who was his boyfriend. If he told him to leave, he would no doubt be upset underneath that angry exterior. He didn't want to hurt him like that. Still, the two of them were acting like children. Children, Izuku thought. That's it. What? Bakugo and Todoroki asked simultaneously. The brunette grinned broadly. The next time you two start getting into some petty verbal brawl, I'm going to talk to the teachers of the supplemental course about visiting those primary students you dealt with a few weeks back. I bet the class would love to see a song and dance number by future heroes. Enough of our classmates would definitely be up to it too. Something close to a grim determination rooted itself into the two boys being threatened. With the power Izuku unknowingly held over their teachers with his charm, there was no way an idea like that would be turned down. This meant they would have to make sure they didn't challenge Izuku's patience one more time, since the brunette would indeed follow through with his claim. Todoroki and Bakugo met eyes. Truce. It lasted all of 10 minutes. Honestly, Izuku hadn't expected them to behave for longer than 5, so he had to give them some credit. Still, he was nothing if not a person who kept his promises. That night, don't look so smug, Deku. You might have all might wrapped around your finger, and for some reason Aizawa was oddly supportive of your idea, but now you're in charge of finding a song for us to learn a dance to in only 5 days. I already know what song we're going to dance and sing to. I thought of it while you and Todoroki set one of the bushes outside the dorm on fire. He retorted cheekily. It was only after Bakugo playfully pinned him to the bed and let himself go dead weight that he continued. I already messaged the idea to Gyro and Mina. We're working on coming up with a few alternate lyrics since some of them won't apply to the kids. They're around 6 years old, right? The hell should I know? They're primary school brats. I don't think they'll be impressed no matter what we end up performing anyway. Izuku made a noise of defiance. That's where you're wrong, Kaken. I picked a song even children won't be able to resist getting into. Bakugo was taken off guard when Izuku used his quirk to flip their position, his cheeks heating up at the determined look on his boyfriend's face. Determination was so freaking attractive. What song did you pick? Nope, not telling. That's a secret between Gyro, Mina, and I until we get stuff finalized tomorrow afternoon. Anyway, he trailed off with a peculiar expression taking place of his earlier determined one. You were really at Todoroki's throat today. Could it be that he was right when he suggested you were jealous when you discovered the two of us dancing this morning? You should know by this point you're the only one I have eyes for, Kaken. Instead of a verbal answer, Bakugo growled lowly in response. A moment later he leaned forward and began kissing the area around his boyfriend's Adam's apple, effectively knocking him over onto his side at the same time. That feeling, coupled with Bakugo's hand gripping him by the middle of his shirt, the other running through his green curls gingerly, completely distracted Izuku from what he'd just been saying. The sensation of lips on his neck was new. It sent fire to various places that had him blushing madly. "Who's at your throat now, Deku?" Bakugo rumbled against his skin before bringing his head up so they were eye to eye. When he noticed how red the greenette was, he couldn't help but smirk. "Wow, you look a bit like a Christmas tree." "Kaken," he whined. "We agreed to take things slow." "This isn't as slow," he stuttered when another long kiss was placed on the sensitive skin of his collarbone. Bakugo didn't know it was possible for him to feel more pride. "We agreed on hand-holding, cuddling, and kissing. What did it feel like I was doing to you just then?" "You were kissing my neck, but—" He was cut off by Bakugo's lips against his own. In an instant Izuku was wrapping himself around the blonde, pressing his body closer as Izuku gave the other boy's tongue access. It was all either of them could do to hold back moans. How could just kissing make them feel so good? "See," Bakugo managed when he was finally able to pull himself away. His lips felt all tingly and a tad bit raw. Maybe he should invest in some chapstick. "Just kissing." The next afternoon. "You know, dude, some heroes have another job besides being a hero. Like how Present Mike is a hero, teacher, and runs a segment of a radio show. You could totally be a songwriter and singer on the side." Izuku blushed at the attention. The members of the band team were currently deciding on the changes to the chosen song. However, the group kept getting sidetracked. "Kaminari-kun, while that sounds good and all, I think Gyro would be the one better fit to be a musical artist and hero. She's more talented than me when it comes to music, and she's a better performer. Going out in front of people isn't really my thing. Midoriya, you're aspiring to be the #1 hero. You can't say going out in front of people isn't your thing when you're going to be doing that your entire career. You know what I mean though. Protecting others and doing what I can to make people smile and feel safe is what I want to do. I want to achieve that by being a full-time hero, not being a musician. Not to say being a musician isn't a way to save people or make them happy. It's just not something I see myself doing long-term, you know." He attempted to explain. Writing and composing music was fun and important to him as a hobby, even though it was something he was good at, enjoyed, and would most likely do when the urge struck him in the future. His heart yearned for him to help people by being a hero just like All Might. "I get that. You could always join me sometime for a few singles though," Gyro suggested. "You could help me with the songwriting, instrumentation, etc. whenever you want. After the festival I'm seriously considering making a few singles on the side, maybe even doing some live singing on a show or something. Attention isn't really my thing, but the feeling during our performances was just..." She trailed off, unable to put in words how right it felt up there on stage. "Can I get in on this? I'd love to jam with you again." The purple-haired girl seemed a bit taken back by Kaminari's enthusiasm. After a moment she gave the blonde a genuine smile. "I'd like that." Takoyami took that moment to clear his throat. "May I remind everyone that we were nearly finished with the revisions. Since we are all performing Wednesday morning, our classmates only have the rest of today as well as after classes tomorrow and Tuesday to learn the new lyrics. Not to mention the dance moves," Yaoyorozu added. "Keep in mind most of us here along with the staging team have basically no experience dancing. Whatever we decide on for a dance routine should be all-encompassing, simple, and child-appropriate. We should probably do a run-through tonight too." Mina suddenly stood up, hands on her hips as she made the tisk sound a few times. "Guys, there's no need to get worked up. I already have a vision of what we should do for the song. Midori, Gyro, just focus on recording our version of the song once we're done here so everyone can learn the lyrics while we practice the moves tonight. Since everyone is singing and dancing this time, the instrumental being what we're dancing to, I know just what moves we can do to keep us all animated yet still focused enough to sing proudly." She flashed a peace sign proudly. "Just leave it to me." In the end they were glad they did. The routine she unveiled that night coupled the pleasantly received Class 1 parody music Izuku and Gyro had come up with perfectly. Those kids were definitely in for a show. Wednesday morning. "This is it," Hagakure shouted excitedly after peeking behind the curtain Yaoyorozu had created. They were on a stage much smaller than what they'd performed on before, their only audience being a large class of children, their teacher, and a few heroes that were interested in the little show Aizawa's class was putting on. There was no need for microphones since the room wasn't too big. The stage didn't have a curtain or any sort of setup other than the elevated platform, so Todoroki and Yaoyorozu had made do by making pillars of ice and a thin black curtain attached to either end of said pillars. Improvisation at its finest. "Are you ready, Kaken?" said Blonde cracked his knuckles, a wicked grin on his face. "Those brats are going to clap like they don't have control over their own puny bodies. We're going to blow them away, Deku." Izuku laughed at his boyfriend's enthusiasm. "With you, Todoroki, Mina, and myself being part of the group closest to the audience, I don't doubt that at all. Despite your constant arguing, you and Todoroki-kun are great dancers now. Correction, nerd, I'm great at everything I do." "Okay guys," Gyro was suddenly shouting as Ida dramatically pointed to his watch. The class rep was motioning people to gather near him. "It's time to go out there. Once we're in place I'm going to give the signal to their teacher to start the music. Is everyone ready? She was met with resounding enthusiasm from all 19 of her classmates. Yeah, then let's do this. With that they raced out onto stage from either side of the curtain. They got into 2 rows of 6 and one with 8, with Uraraka, Tsuyu, Mina, Todoroki, Izuku, and Bakugo in front. Hagakure, Ajiro, Jiro, Kaminari, Kirishima, and Siro were in the second row, while the back row consisted of Sato, Kota, Shoji, Takoyami, Yaoyorozu, Ida, Aoyama, and Maita. Everyone in place, Jiro flashed a thumbs-up gesture in the air. 4 seconds later the instrumental for the infamous Friends theme song began. Since there was a good several seconds of music at the beginning, they decided to begin with some lively movement. They bounded from one side of the stage to the other with rows 1 and 3 in the opposite direction. 2 was going in to create wave-like visual effect. They all planted themselves back in their original formation just as the singing part came up. They moved forward as one, sliding left and right while doing a few arm movements all the while. So no one told you life was going to be this great. They clapped rapidly, a few audience members clapping along since they recognized the song. It's not a joke, you know, we're heroes from UA. If you're in trouble you know that we are here. They jumped to the side, shimming as one before completing a spin. When it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year, but we'll be there for you, the boys sang. At the same time every group of 2 performed a move where one of the 2 fell into the other's arms. Izuku grinned up at Bakugo as he landed safely in his grasp, the latter smirking even as he sang. When the rain starts to pour, the girls echoed after, we'll be there for you, like they've been there before, we'll be there for you. And you can be heroes too. Everyone finished together before launching into the next verse. Back on their feet, every other column moved either backwards or forwards while throwing an arm out to the audience. The students of Class 1 pointed at the children staring at them in awe as they sang. You're still in school, that's cool, knowledge to be made. The best heroes are those who strive for something great. Your teacher told you there'd be days like these, when hard work is sometimes second to fun. That's why we're here singing this song, because this time the pairs grabbed each other's hands. They moved their arms in turn in a sort of pulley movement, later throwing in a spin and literal honest trust fall. We'll be there for you, the girls sang, the boys echoing this time around. When the rain starts to pour, we'll be there for you. Bakugo allowed himself to fall backwards, not the tiniest bit worried about Izuku failing and catching him. Alongside them Uraraka caught Tsuyu, and Mina caught Todoroki. Like they've been there before, we'll be there for you, and you can be heroes too. The song took a more somber tone then, but while the singers echoed the tone their dance remained just as energetic. No matter what your quirk is, they bent down, falling onto one knee, or even if you're quirkless, their right arms swept out to the side. With friends by your side you have the potential to do anything. Half of the dancers stood up, reaching down to grab a student who was still on the ground. The latter group was pulled to its feet before they linked arms. Someone to face the day with, make it through all the rest with. Someone you'll always laugh with. Everyone turned their heads to either side, smiling at those around them. Even at your worst, they're best with you, yeah. If you're in trouble you know that we are here. When it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. They dissolved the link then, repeating the various sliding, shimmying, and arm movements from the very beginning. This time, however, they made sure to keep clapping along with the beat. We'll be there for you. When the rain starts to pour, we'll be there for you. Like they've been there before, we'll be there for you. And you can be heroes too. The front row knelt, the second row crouched, and the third row remained standing as the young students before them clapped along with them. We'll be there for you. We'll be there for you. We'll be there for you. They threw their arms into the air, every other person doing jazz hands as they sang the last line. And you can be heroes too. Needless to say, the moment the song ended Class 1 was met with excited cheers and clapping. Even the more reluctant of Izuku's classmates couldn't help but feel pride in their performance. They did a great job. Their audience seemed like they enjoyed it too. Izuku turned to Bakugo with his now common 1000-watt smile. I think they liked it, don't you, Kaken? The grin on the blonde's face softened into a fond smile as he gazed into Izuku's green eyes. Quit selling yourself short, Deku. The little munchkins ate that shit up. You're amazing, alright. Don't you dare think anything else. His comment was met with a joyous laugh. Maybe, just maybe, compliments like that would have Izuku seeking out Jiro for recording her offer soon rather than later. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through What If Deku Was Songwriter. I hope you found it as intriguing and thought-provoking as we did. A big shout out to BlueLiv22 for crafting such a compelling story. Don't forget to check out their profile on fanfiction.net for more amazing works. The link is in the description below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to Deku Fanfics for more fascinating explorations into the world of fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we're always excited to hear your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. See you guys in the next video.